In any discipline, there are some fundamentals that if you get those right and you master the fundamentals, that discipline is going to work better for you than it worked if you didn't have those fundamentals down. They're called basics, the fundamentals, and we're going to talk about the fundamentals of financial freedom today. The first thing I'm going to say about financial freedom is this. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that financial freedom and financial security are the same thing, and they are not. So what do I mean by that? I heard Robert G. Allen, co-author of 1 Minute Millionaire, author of Nothing Down, author of Multiple Streams of Income. I heard him say this one time, and I thought, this is brilliant. He said in life, there are 2 doors. How many doors? 2. In life, there are 2 doors. He said one is marked freedom. The other is marked security. He said if you choose the door marked security, you get neither. But if you choose the door marked freedom, you get both. And I thought, that is such a good analogy. Benjamin Franklin said, if we seek security, we have no independence. Helen Keller said, security does not exist in all of nature, neither do the sons of men as a whole experience it. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. My question is, what are you making in your life? Are you making it a daring adventure, or are you going to allow it to be nothing at all? It's the fact that it might not work that makes it working so worthwhile. Like if you remove the risk, you also remove the reward. Because the risk that you had to overcome to get to the reward is what makes the reward desirable. Or it's one of the things that makes it desirable. It's not the only thing. I am really not terribly coordinated today, but it's okay. There are other days for coordination. So, what are the fundamentals? And in fact, I'm gonna stay over here on the board the whole time because there are fundamentals to success, and these fundamentals are absolutely. If you get half of them right, your life's gonna get better. Like even if you don't get all of them, right? It's interesting how. Even when you take people who operate at the highest level in the world, they're like the best of the best at some fundamentals, and at others, they're just okay. Like Tiger Woods at the top of his game was number 1 in driving distance, but he was number 7 in driving accuracy, right? Steph Curry is the greatest three-point player of all times, but there's stuff he's not great at, right? Allen Iverson may be been one of the best. Certainly was one of the best ball handlers ever, but he wasn't great at everything, right? Like you don't have to be great at all the fundamentals. You have to be proficient at all the fundamentals. You have to have some skill level at all the fundamentals, but you don't have to have all of them dialed in. Okay, the first one. The first fundamental of financial freedom is environment. Wow, why does this keep doing this? Because something I'm doing. And that's a V, so I'm going to do this over. My vibe board is acting wonky, and it thinks I'm acting wonky. Environment. Environment. Okay, so environment. What does that mean? That means it's going to be easier to create financial freedom in some environments than it is in others. Now, if you're a child, you have no control over your environment. If you're an adult and you live in a country that does not allow you to accumulate and create wealth, well, that's going to have an effect. But again, like I talked about in a video that I recorded earlier this morning, that's a contributing factor. It's not a determining factor. Because even in the United States of America, there are plenty of people who were born into slavery, but they figured out how to get free and they died free. So think about that. So environment is a contributing factor. It's not a determining factor. It's not more powerful than your will. I think about the children of Israel. And when they came out of Egypt, from Egypt to the promised land was an 11-day journey. You know how long it took them? 40 years. It took them 40 years to go 11 days worth of distance. Why? Because they resisted receiving the promise because the obstacles were big. They looked at the environment and said, yeah, this is a really great environment, but the giants though. But what about the giants, right? So, environment. Your environment contributes to the person you become, but it doesn't determine the person you become. And what you have to do is you have to acknowledge the environment that you're in and work within that environment. Now, when you have an opportunity to place yourself in an environment that is more conducive to the outcomes that you desire, then do that, and now you've got more leverage towards creating financial freedom. Does that make sense? For instance, I'll give you for instance when it comes to environment. I used to live in the state of Pennsylvania, okay? Pennsylvania had state income tax, has state income tax, right? So it's going to be more work to create financial freedom in the state. I'm not hating on Pennsylvania, I'm just making an observation, right? In the state of Pennsylvania, it's going to be more challenging to create financial freedom than it is in the state of Florida that has no state income tax. California has an insanely high tax, but not only does the environment is it heavily taxed, but it's also heavily regulated. So the more heavily regulated, the more heavily taxed an environment is, the harder it is for people in that environment to break free based on that taxation and that regulation. Does that make sense? So if you have the opportunity to put yourself in an environment where freedom is more likely, then put yourself in that environment where freedom is more likely. When I had a job, my income was limited by the amount of money that my employer would pay me. So when I had a job, I didn't just have a job. I had a job that I worked during the day, but I had a business that I worked at night. So the genesis of my business skills were created at night when I came home from my job that I woke up at 2:30 in the morning to go to. I was a trash man. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, so I get to the yard to make sure I checked the tire pressure and the hydraulics in my truck before I went to dump the truck at the landfill. So I get up in the morning at 2:30, I go to work. I'd work 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours. I'd come home, I'd take a nap, and then I'd go out on appointments to sell insurance and investments. And when I got started, I was terrible at sales. But guess what? I knew the environment of me having my own business, even though I wasn't good at business, was a better environment for me to create freedom for my family than just working a job and only making the amount of money somebody else tells me that they're willing to pay for that work, that job that I'm doing. So I'm not saying quit your job and go start a business. I'm saying turn your television off and go start a business. I'm saying quit the bowling league and the golf league and go start a business. I'm saying use your discretionary time to emancipate yourself from financial bondage. That's what I'm saying. And so you can determine your environment. So I went to Las Vegas last week or week before. I don't remember because all the days run together after a while. So I went to Las Vegas because Russell Brunson, one of my business coaches, he was having virtual Funnel Hacking Live. He called it Funnel Hacking Live International. He invited all the people from his inner circle to come, so I'm there. And so one of his inner circle students, who used to be one of my students, she said to me, she said, I got a question for you, man. Why do you still come to these? Like, why are you here? Which is a valid question, right? Because I certainly wasn't going to learn how to do something to make some money, right? I mean, think about it. Like, oh, if I could just get one more idea. I wasn't looking for an idea. And I told her, I said, this is why I come here. I come here because this is an environment where I grow. And I noticed while I was there that ideas, I was getting ideas, not from something somebody was saying, just being in the room with all this entrepreneurial energy, I was getting ideas that I don't get when I'm in other spaces. Even when I come in here, I get ideas in this room when y'all are here. I get ideas when y'all are here, all these folks who are watching on YouTube, I get ideas when I'm in this environment that I don't get when I'm on the golf course or just sitting on an airplane. I was going to say sitting on an airplane. playing around a bunch of random people. Or in a public place around a bunch of random people that I don't get, the same ideas don't come to me. See, well, I don't think people understand how real energy is. In fact, energy is so real, it is the essence of reality. And God is the ultimate energy, obviously. God is the ultimate reality. Like spirit is more real than physical matter. How do I know? Because physical matter didn't make spirit, spirit made physical matter. So spirit has to be more real. Energy has to be more real. Invisibility is reality. Physicality is nothing more than a manifestation of reality. For those of you who are watching me on your phone right now, on your iPad, on your big screen television, guess what? I'm not in your phone, I'm not on your iPad, and I'm not in your television. But that's where you see me. I'm manifested there, but I'm not there, right? That's not me. That's just a manifestation of me. This physical body that I'm wrapped in, this, as some people call it, this meat suit that I'm wrapped up in, is not me. It's just the manifestation of me. Notice in Genesis chapter 1, it says, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our image. Let's make man in our image and after our likeness. So God made man in Genesis chapter 1. But if you keep reading Genesis chapter 2, the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and then breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. So God breathed the man that he made into the body that he had formed. So environment matters. And so when you allow yourself, like every time I pick up a book and I'm reading a book that was written by somebody who took 20 years to learn something, 2 years to write it down in a book, I am literally downloading not just the words on the page, but I'm changing my environment. I'm allowing myself to be exposed to the energy that they were emoting when they were creating this book that I'm reading. And so what we have to do is we have to immerse ourselves in a different environment. I hated reading. You know why I hated it? Because I wasn't good at it. I never read a book till I was 16, I started reading the Bible. It's the first book I ever started reading, other than a karate book or a comic book. I read karate books because I like karate, and I read comic books because they were easy. Just keeping it real. And the best books ever? Karate comic books. Those are the best, right? And so then I start reading this Bible, this big, thick book, little bitty words, no pictures, 2 columns. Okay, let's go. But now, I can't get in my car and not listen to an audiobook. I can't sit down and not have a book to open it up and allow somebody else's ideas to permeate my brain, change the environment. Get in an environment. You know, that's why I like masterminds. I like being in masterminds where I'm around other people who are thinking about the same kind of things I'm thinking about. Okay, so environment, that's 1. 2, super big. Perspective. I said it before, I'll say it again. We don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. Perspective. Perspective. What's perspective? The angle from which you see a thing. You want financial freedom, you have to start looking at money from a different angle. There are far too many powers that be that would desire us to think that there are ideas, situations, ideologies that only have one side. Not possible. Have any of you ever flipped a one-sided coin? Have you ever eaten a one-sided piece of bread? A one-sided pancake? Have you ever written on a one-sided piece of paper? No. Why? Because it cannot exist. It is impossible for anything to exist with only one side. I submit to you that the majority of the frustration that you experience in your life, if not all of it, comes from the fact that you are focused on a singular perspective. And you are either unwilling to flip it over and look at the other side, or the thought just never occurred to you. Let me ask you a question. Can you have a conversation with people you disagree with and still be civil? I know you can. At least I know you think you can. But the greater our need for consensus, the lower our belief. What does that mean? The more I need someone else to agree with my perspective, the less I actually believe it. Because if I actually believe something, I can believe it all by myself. It doesn't matter how much noise people make. It doesn't matter who says it. Like anybody can, like if somebody wants to persuade me that the sky is green and the grass is blue, I ain't buying it, but I ain't mad at him. Maybe they're just colorblind. All right, and here's what's fascinating. Perspective is an amazing, amazing thing. The Bible gives us some very good insights into perspective. Like what? Look not every man on his own things, but look every man also on the things of others. Wow, that's a good perspective. What does that mean? That means whenever anybody disagrees with me about anything ever, I am right 100% of the time. That's what that means. Y'all didn't look confused. Okay, you say, Myron, what do you mean when somebody disagrees with you about anything ever, you're right 100% of the time? Well, I'm right 100% of the time. Somebody disagrees with me about something in the Bible, I'm right 100% of the time. Somebody disagrees with me about something in society, in politics, in media. Somebody disagrees with me about anything, I'm right 100% of the time. What do you mean, bro? You're right 100% of the time. Here's what I'm right about. There's a 50% chance they could be right and a 50% chance I could be right. And if they're right, I want to know so I can change. And if I'm right, I want to know so I can stand. So when I say I'm right 100% of the time, I don't mean I'm right on the position that I have. I'm right in realizing that there's a good possibility that I'm right, and I believe I'm right, but I'm open to the possibility I might be wrong. When I become unwilling to entertain the possibility that I might be wrong, I'm afraid to find out a truth that I am unwilling to accept. Oh, snap. That's the problem. That's one of the biggest problems in the world today. We are attempting to silence opposing voices. I know for a fact. Somebody said, unless it's your wife. But they think I'm married to their wife. I'm just kidding. So, now I messed myself up. But the reality is, like, we live in a world that wants to silence all opposing voices. The truth does not ever have to be afraid of a lie. But if a lie is not afraid of the truth and does not silence it, it will not be around very long. So what we want to do is we want to silence voices so that people don't even hear what the opposing view is, because we're afraid it's going to mess up our agenda, whatever that is. So perspective about money will have everything to do with financial freedom. What do I mean? Well, if your perspective is that money is inherently evil, because you might say, well, but the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. I know that's what it says. That's the Logos. What's the Rhema? The Logos is what it says. The Rhema is what it means. What's the Rhema? The Rhema is, see, people think the love of money is the root of all evil. That means that every evil in the world is here because of money. Well, that can't be true. That can't be true. Stop it. You say, Myron, what do you mean that can't be true? Well, it can't be true because had it been true, Eve would have eaten the fruit because the serpent paid her. If the love of money is the root of all evil means that every single solitary evil in the world is here because of money, then everything that everyone has ever done wrong, they would have done it because somebody paid them. So whatever it means, whatever the love of money is the root of all evil means, it can't mean that. I don't even have to think about that for 15 seconds to know that it can't mean that. Okay, it doesn't mean that. The love of money is the root of all evil. Well, it has to mean something. That's right, it has to mean something. But whatever it means, the Bible does not contradict itself. And the same Bible that says the love of money is the root of all evil also says, the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. So whatever the love of money is the root of all evil means, it doesn't contradict that. Are y'all tracking? See, but you have a perspective. Like, how much money you want to make? Not too much. I want to get into heaven. Why? It's easier for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. I mean, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Right, okay, I get that. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. I get that. I believe that's true. But Myron, aren't you rich? Depends on who you ask. If you ask Bill Gates, probably not. Ask Elon Musk, that little dude, right? Okay, depends on who you ask. Okay, but yes, I am. Aren't you worried about getting into heaven because you have too much money? No, because I know that's not what that scripture is talking about. Whatever it means, it can't mean that. Abraham was rich. He wasn't just rich, he was very rich. Go read Genesis chapter 13, verse 2. It says, and Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and gold. So whatever it's easier for the camel to go through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven, whatever it means, it's not going to contradict that. And God's the one that made Abraham rich. It's not going to contradict that. But your perspective is skewed. And your perspective is skewed because people who have a limited understanding of truth give you their limited understanding of truth, not realizing that it's like a half-truth is a whole lie. What does that mean, a half-truth is a whole lie? Well, it means that you cannot, okay, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to have to do it now. So just make sure I'm good on time. So the Hebrew word for truth is the word amet. Aleph, mem, tav. Aleph, mem, tav. What does that mean? Aleph, mem, tav. Every Hebrew word is built. If I write H2O on the board, that we know that's what? Say it loud. Water. That's water. Okay, but I didn't write W-A-T-E-R. I just gave you the components of water. Well, guess what? Every Hebrew word is not just spelled, it's built. In other words, every one of these letters is a component that makes up. This doesn't just spell truth, it builds truth. This is how truth is built. What does that mean? Well, this is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This is the middle letter. This is the last letter. What does that tell us about truth? It tells us you can't know the truth about anything unless you see the beginning, the middle, and the end of the thing. Are y'all tracking? All three of these letters stand on two legs. There are three letters that stand on two legs. What does the scripture tell us about truth? At the mouth of two or three witnesses, let everything be established. So each one of these three letters stands on two legs. So it is a witness of itself. This letter represents God. Oh, this letter represents God. Aleph. The word Elohim begins with an aleph. An aleph is made of two yods and a vav. A yod is a hand, a vav is a nail or a hook. The word that represents God, the letter that represents God is made of two hands and a nail. Mem is the might of the ocean. This is God's mighty. And this is a tav, is a cross or a covenant. Tav is a cross or a covenant. So what is truth? Truth is God's mighty covenant. What's a covenant? A covenant is a promise between two or more, an agreement between two or more individuals based upon a mutual love and trust, where they promise to protect the other and keep their word to the other on their very existence. So the covenant, like the covenant is, truth is that God is saying in the word truth, God is saying, if I lie, I die. Which, by the way, brings us to this point. This letter represents God. The word mem tav spells the word met. M-E-T-H. Met. What is met? Met is death in Hebrew. So if you separate God from the truth, all you have left is death. If God himself does not keep his word, he has to die. That's why God refers to himself as the God who cannot lie, not the God who does not lie, not the God who will not lie, but the God who cannot lie. Why? If he lies, he ceases to exist. If he ceases to exist, everything ceases to exist. This is the nature of truth. I could go on and on and on and on. I'm not going to. I think this, if you think about this, God, that represents the Father, Mem, the might of the ocean, that represents the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and the Tav represents the Son. I'm done. Oh, I want to tell you the next one. So the word for falsehood in Hebrew is the word cough. How do you, okay. Couldn't remember how to make a cough. Okay, this sheker, okay, sheker, shin, kof, resh is the word for falsehood. Huh, that's interesting. Notice that all of these letters stand on one leg. Now, interesting thing about this is these are three letters. Remember the aleph? Amet is the first letter, the middle letter, and the last letter. The word sheker is based on three letters that are really, really close to each other. It's a small sliver. But in the word falsehood or sheker, they're out of order. Because in the Hebrew alphabet, Kof, Resh, Shin. So this one comes before Kof, Resh, and then this one comes after those. So these are three things that are really close together, but they're out of order. That's what falsehood is. When you look at a small sliver of something that's out of order, that is a falsehood. The number that represents truth, which I didn't go into, is the number 9, or the number 441, but 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. The number that represents sheker is 100, 200, 300. How much is that? That's 600. 6 plus 0 is 0. 600. I wrote 6,000. Okay, 6 plus 0 is 6 plus 0 is 6. So the number for truth is 9. The number for falsehood is 6. What's 6? An upside down 9. What's a lie? An upside down truth. Like, only a sovereign God could have this much detail in the creation of everything. Okay. Say, Myron, what's your point? My point is that one of the reasons people misunderstand the Bible is because they take a small passage of scripture or a single verse, they take it out of context, which is out of order, and then they come to a conclusion on it, and then they start teaching false doctrine that they think is true. But there are no isolated doctrines in Scripture, and there are no contradictory doctrines in Scripture. So when the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, it doesn't mean the love of money is the root of every single solitary evil in the world. It means that when people love money, they will do the word all in that verse is the key word. When people love money, they will do all kinds, all types, all manner of evil. The word all does not mean every single solitary in that verse. It means all kinds, all types, all manner. So when people love money, here's what it means. When people love money, they will sell drugs to people to make money that harm those people. And I'm not just talking about what they call corner pharmacists. I'm not talking about street pharmacists. I'm talking about like the pharmaceutical industry. When people love money, they will use people to get it. So the love of money is the root of all evil. So if you have all of these internal conflicts around money, you will never work to become something that you despise. So in order for you to have financial freedom, you have to change your perspective. Okay. I can go on and on and on and on and on and on just about perspective. So I happen to believe that wealth is inherently good. I believe that. I believe that with every fiber of my being, that wealth is inherently good. If it were not inherently good, God would not have blessed so many people in the Bible with it, and so many people in our world with it, if it was inherently evil. Wealth is inherently good, even though inherently evil people use it for evil. A hammer is good if you're driving a nail, but if you're hitting somebody in the head with it, not so much. So, perspective. You want financial freedom? It's going to require income. Do you understand that income is the result of something? Income does not exist in a vacuum. That's why politicians, every time they say they're going to solve income inequality, they're always lying, because you can't solve income inequality, because income is the result of something. Income is the result of value, both intrinsic value and perceived value. The perceived value cannot outweigh the intrinsic value. In other words, you can't make it seem more valuable than it is, or it's not real value. And there are a lot of people in the world who've attained wealth and a lot of income by increasing the perceived value without increasing the intrinsic value. But if you have the intrinsic value and you don't have the perceived value, nobody's buying it. So you actually have to have both. Are you tracking? Okay. So, income. Well, where do we get our income from? Well, you can get income from wages. It's not bad to get income from wages, but it's not the most ideal. So if you get income from wages, you would do yourself a service to add something to that. Have any of y'all seen, I probably shouldn't, I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm going to tell you. Have any of y'all seen the YouTube videos by School of Hard Knocks, this kid that goes around us, is that your yacht? Is that your Rolls Royce? How did you afford to buy that? What kind of business do you have? Right? Okay, tell me about your faith, right? Okay, so that young man came to Tampa 2 days ago, and he calls me, he's like, hey, can you do an interview? Sure, let's do it. So we did an interview, I met him at Eddie V's, we did this like interview thing, and I asked him this question, how old are you? He said, 22. He's 22 years of age. And he and his brother have partnered together to build this really successful YouTube channel and an agency at 22, right? He didn't do that with wages. He did that by starting his own business. So you can do it with wages. You can do it by starting your own business. And you can do it with investments. Say, which one's best, Myron? Well, if you don't make enough money from your business and investments, please keep earning your wages. People say, Myron, I want to quit my job so I can build my business. Wrong answer, but we do have some nice consolation prizes for you in the back. Do not quit your job to start a business. I mean, you can if you want to, but I promise you, you will find out it is a mistake. Instead of quitting your job to build a business, come home from your job and go build your business. And get your family involved with you. It'll change the game for you. Come home, get your family involved, go build your business on the side. When the income from your business is twice as much as the one from your job, then if you want to quit your job, quit your job. Why? Nothing will inspire you to build a business that you love like having a job that you hate. So even if you hate your job, especially if you hate your job, don't quit it. How's that for insight? Okay. So, income. Here's the next one. Character. By character, what I mean when I say character, I'm talking about self-control. I'm talking about your ability to control yourself. What does that mean? Managing your money, making sure that your outgo does not exceed your income so the upkeep does not become your downfall. Stop making financial decisions based on emotion. How many of y'all tracking? But I just love it though. Love it later. You got to, there's not a person alive that doesn't have to do things they don't love in order to achieve things they do love. I don't love working out, but I love being fit. So I got to do something I don't love so I can have something I do love. You know what I'd rather do? And like Dee Dee will attest to this. I would rather play golf all day, every day, or play or practice all day, every day. Can I get an amen from the back row? I would. I'd rather do that. I love golf. Like, it's my, but I don't play golf every day. I used to play golf every day. Okay, so now I'm confessing in front of the world. But I don't play golf every day anymore. But there's a whole bunch of stuff I do that I don't love to do. Oh well. I don't like leaving home. I love being at home. Love it. I don't like traveling. I love to travel. You can have my share. I like being at home. All my stuff is at my house. My guitar is at my house. My bed is at my house. My house is at my house. My workout equipment is at my house. Okay. My family at my house. Is anybody confused? Okay. So, but you got to have enough character to do things that you don't want to do so you can afford to do things that you do want to do. Oh, isn't that interesting? If you focus on environment, perspective, income, and character, it's kind of epic. You can have epic freedom. Oh, I see what you did there. Some of y'all caught it. Some of y'all caught it before I even showed it to you. Well, but wait, there's more. This is one of my favorite ones to talk about, and I do have time to talk about it. Okay. Focus. Focus. Focus is so absolutely essential. You know what most people are really, really good at? Being distracted. The number one commonality I see in people who struggle financially is they focus on distraction and ignore intention. The number one commonality that I see in people who have attained some level of financial freedom is they focus on intention and ignore distraction. Now, I know, I'm going to talk to my entrepreneurs out there whose family thinks you're crazy. Your family, if you are a new entrepreneur, your family thinks you're crazy. Your friends think you're crazier than your family thinks you are. Can I get a witness? But here's the reality. People say, you're so out of balance. And they say it like the 11th commandment was, thou shalt be balanced, right? You're so out of balance. You're so out of balance? Well, no duh. When I was broke, I didn't deserve to be balanced. I won't say if you're broke, you don't deserve. But when I was broke, I didn't deserve to be balanced. Why? I was broke. Because balance is not the objective of life. Balance is a season of life. And it's never winter and summer in the same place at the same time. Sometimes in Texas it is, okay? Okay? But it's never winter and summer in the same place at the same time. And you're never going to be in focus and in balance in the same person at the same time. Here's how it works. When it's winter, it ain't summer. Am I talking too fast? And when it's summer, it ain't winter. How many of y'all tracking? Okay. Well, guess what? When you're in focus, you're out of balance. And when you're in balance, you're out of focus. And all of us have seasons of focus and seasons of balance. You're out of balance when you're at work 8 hours a day and you're home with your family for like less than that. You're home awake, you're at work awake working for 8 hours a day and you're at home with your family for less than that. You're out of focus. You're out of balance, but you're in focus. See, I'm just gonna go spend all day with my family because I'm so out of balance. Yeah, but your family's gonna be living on the street for long. Because you thought balance was the objective. Balance is a season. You know what? When you first start out your life, your seasons of focus, and especially in business, your seasons of focus are this big, your seasons of balance are that big. Focus, balance, focus, balance, focus, balance. And then eventually get to the point where focus doesn't have to be as big and balance gets a little bit bigger. And then focus gets a little smaller and balance gets a little bigger. And then focus, then balance, then focus and balance, and then focus and balance. They're both the same size. I can focus the same amount I'm balanced. And then eventually, I'm focused this much, I got this much balance. Focus this much, got this much balance. Focus this much, got this much balance. Focus this much, got this much balance. What if instead of having a desire to retire, you had a desire to aspire higher by having seasons of focus and focus? When I started this business right here, my business of coaching, consulting, training, etc., there were many nights I was up all night duplicating the tapes that I was going to ship out that I sold over the last weekend before I could go to my next event. Many nights up all night. And see, you're so out of balance. I miss some of my kids' games. I miss some of my daughter's recitals. I miss some of my son's plays. I miss some stuff in my kids' life. But guess what? I was missing stuff that they were doing so they didn't have to miss it. Focus. Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness. But Myron, I don't have any resources. Maybe. And maybe you just don't have enough resourcefulness to see the resources and use the resources you have. I submit to you that resourcefulness is more important than resources. Because if you're resourceful, you will figure it out. I loved when I read A Narrative in the Life of Frederick Douglass. By the way, if you haven't read that book, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, like you want to read a book that will change your life, read A Narrative in the Life of Frederick Douglass, his autobiography. When he talks about the fact that his master's wife was teaching him how to read. And he talks about the fact that his master came in one day and caught his wife teaching Frederick Douglass and other slave children how to read. And he just went off. Woman, you can't teach these slaves how to read. You teach a slave how to read, they'll start reading books. They'll realize the world is so much bigger than the world they live in now. They'll never be content to be a slave again. And whatever you do, don't ever let a slave read the Bible. And Frederick Douglass, as a child, decided with his resourcefulness that if the person who owned him and could kill him and not be prosecuted, could sell his mother away from him or him away from his mother, if that person was that dead set against him learning how to read, it was the most important thing he must learn how to do. And because he worked in the big house, he would take leftovers from the master's table and exchange it with poor white kids in the neighborhood in exchange for them teaching him how to understand letters. And every time he found a piece of paper with some letters on it, he would take it back to his slave quarters and he would practice his reading until he got so eloquent. Like I was 20-something when I read his autobiography. There were words in his autobiography I had to look up in the dictionary. This is a self-taught man. He became so eloquent as an orator that he gained an audience with the President of the United States and the Queen of England and was instrumental in the abolition of slavery in the United States of America. Not because he had resources, but because he had resourcefulness. We could all learn something from that. And like, how am I going to have an excuse after that? Okay. How are you going to have an excuse after that? Okay. Resourcefulness. Experience. What does that mean? Experience means you have to actually know how to do something that other people care about, right? I talked about income. Income, what's income? Income is the result of value exchange, right? Like the amount of income you create or that you make is going to be determined by the amount of value that you create and the number of people you create that value for. If you create value for more people, you're going to make more income. If you create a higher level of value, you're going to create more income. So experience. You have to actually know something that gives you the ability to solve someone else's problem. Here's what's really cool. Just look at the problems you solve for yourself. That'd be a pretty good place to start showing other people how to solve their problems. Like, I'm not good at everything. I'm just good at the stuff I'm good at. You know what? You know one of the reasons I'm really good at teaching sales? Because I was so terrible at sales when I first got started. I was terrible. It was like, I'm going out knocking on people's doors. I'm doing these presentations for this insurance, and everybody's saying, no, bro, no. Oh, bro, no. N-O. It's a two-letter word, bro. Which letter are you having a hard time with? The N or the O? No. Not for a month, not for a week, not for a year, but for 18 months, everybody that I talked to said no. And I talked to a bunch of everybody's. Everybody said no. But you know what I did? I lasted through the learning curve. And finally, I did a presentation and somebody said yes. And I got a commission check. $125.66. I can see that. I can see it. There was red. It was red ink. It was printed in red ink on like gray paper. And I'm like, I showed it to my wife. I said, baby, we're going to be rich. Within a couple months, I was the top sales guy in our office. Every month. How did you go from not being able to make a sale to being top? I went through all the ways that wouldn't work to make a sale. The only thing I had left were ways that would work. But see, some of us are unwilling to do enough iterations while we're bad in order to get good. But is your freedom worth it? I submit to you, if yours isn't, your children's is. Energy. Everything is energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. That's the first law. That's the law of energy, the law of energy conservation. Everything is energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. Now, when you understand that high income, which is what a lot of people would like to have, it's easier to create wealth from high income than it is from low income, but it's possible to create wealth from low income. Let's don't be confused. Like, whether you're rich, poor, or middle class is not determined by how much money you make. I know a lot of people make a lot of money and they're still broke. So whether you're rich, poor, or middle class is not determined by how much money you make, but it's determined by what you do with the money once you get it. But high income is always the result of high energy. High income is a high energy result. Well, here's a principle for you. No high energy result will ever flow to a low energy source. No high energy result will ever flow to a low energy source. What does that mean? Okay, 747. Y'all heard of those, right? Big old airplane, has an upstairs, holds 419 passengers. Fully loaded with passengers, luggage, and fuel, 987,000 pounds. Please, somebody say, that's heavy. That's heavy. That's heavy. Oh, it does fly. But it shouldn't, should it? It doesn't. I'm a little confused. A 747 is so heavy that when they first made it, they were having problems landing it because every time they landed, the tires would blow out because they got so hot landing that much weight. Then some genius figured it out. If we fill the tires with nitrogen or hydrogen, one of them, one of those jijins, What is it, hydrogen?
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen. I thought it was nitrogen. Okay, nitrogen. Where you fill the tires with nitrogen, nitrogen gets cold under pressure. So when you land the plane, the tires actually get colder from all the pressure and they don't blow out. Wow, this is so cool. I know. I thought it was pretty cool. But here's my point about the 747. You know what you will never see in your life? You will never see a 1974 Volkswagen Beetle engine strapped to the wing of a 747. And if you did, it would not even budget. Why? It does not produce enough energy. In order to fly a plane that weighs that much, you need a lot of what? Energy. And a 747 has 4 engines. If 3 of them go out, it can still fly. It won't fly very straight and it won't be very easy to fly, but it'll still fly. That's how overpowered a 747 is. What if you overpowered your business to the same degree that a 747 is overpowered? What if you brought way more energy to your business and your enterprise than was required for you to succeed? Be a whole lot harder to fail. Discipline. I'm just going to say this about discipline. What is discipline? Discipline is doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way you're supposed to do it, and doing it that way every time you do it. That's discipline. And then, optimism. Here's the interesting thing about optimism. Has anybody ever heard of, I think it's called the Reisenberg principle of uncertainty? Anybody ever heard of that? Okay, Edward's heard of it. I've heard it. Okay, so it states that when you look at an object, I'm not a scientist and I don't play one on television, so this is as close as I understand it for all my scientists out there. Okay, when you look at an object, you looking at the object changes the nature of the object when you look at it. Okay, so why did you say that? Because optimism is a perspective. It's looking at the positive side of a thing. I believe that your ability to succeed in life is going to be largely contributed to by your ability to look at the positive side of negative situations. Why? Because anybody can see the positive side of positive situations. But how much practice do you have seeing the positive side of negative situations? Because you developing optimistic muscles is going to contribute to your ability to succeed in life. You got to have some optimism. But Myron, you don't understand, it's so bad right now. I understand that it's bad right now, but if it's bad right now, in that badness, there's a seed for an equal opportunity for good. Why? Have you ever written on a one-sided piece of paper? Have you ever eaten a one-sided piece of bread, one-sided pancake, flipped a one-sided coin? No, why? It cannot exist. So if the situation is bad, flip it over and find the good. Not because it makes the situation better, but because it makes you better. Even the train agrees. Okay, so optimism. Optimism changes how I look at a situation. And remember, I don't see things the way they are. I see things the way I am. And remember, people don't see you through their eyes. People see you through your eyes. And if you want people to look at you differently, learn to look at yourself differently. If you want to see a different situation, look at it from a different side. And then lastly, momentum. You know, momentum would be easy to create were it not for inertia. If you didn't have to overcome inertia and you could just create momentum, momentum would be easy. But momentum, like getting a little bit of momentum is hard. You know what's really hard? Losing momentum and getting it back. That is really hard. That feels like, oh my goodness, I'm at the dentist and they're like doing dental work with no Novocaine, right? When you have momentum, everything feels easier. It's not necessarily easier, it just feels easier. When you lack momentum and all you have is inertia, everything feels hard. What's inertia? Inertia is an object at rest will remain at rest until and unless it's acted upon by an outside force. What's momentum? An object in motion will continue in motion until and unless it's acted upon by an outside force. Do enough iterations when it feels like it's not working, keep doing it, When it feels like nobody's buying, keep selling. When you're not generating any income, keep doing the business activity. Until what? Until the thing that has been working on you has worked on you long enough for it to work for you. And if you will do that, you will see that you will have epic freedom. That is those are the fundamentals of financial freedom. And if you will practice them, I believe you can experience epic financial freedom in your life. Stay blessed by the best. Hope this video has helped you. And if not, watch the next one. It probably will. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
So good.